Hello everyone. Hello everyone. It is Old Man G here back again with another fantasy football deadline stream. It was a great show last week. Got a lot of questions in, so hopefully for sort of more of the same, really. But yeah, we're back. Remember, if you're new to the channel, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio Force on Twitter for basically United Premier League news. But obviously, this is the ongoing Premier League, fantasy football Premier League game week hints and tips. Now, I'm obviously joined with Josh. Josh is with me, obviously, and basically well. I'm going to show you how I did, and we're going to give you some tips. Our fantasy, who we think is the best value for money going into this game week, and also top captain picks, top captain picks. If you guys want to get involved in the comments. We'll be addressing questions, stuff like that as well. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So here you can see this is my team for this game week. Now, the rarity, folks, is that unfortunately, last week I was only able to manage 30 points last week. For a lot of people who know, I took a bit of a hit. Players like Laporte, Foden, all the United players I wanted them in my team. Obviously didn't play, so they weren't part of it. So I was starting with actually 9 players. To make matters worse, the likes of Vestergaard who was in my starting didn't play. The likes of Mitrovic and even who else was it? I think it was Mitrovic and was it Rodriguez or Walker Peters? Or it might be Mitrovic. Mitrovic and Vestergaard, sorry, they came on. So they didn't even play the full thing. So that was a bit annoying. So I ended up only having 30 points after that. Not terrible, but not particularly a good start, unfortunately. So going straight into this team for this coming game week, here is obviously my team here. We have Leno in goal. Leno, to be honest, saved me last week. He probably got half of my points because I foolishly forgot about captaining in my team properly. So Leno, thankfully, was my vice captain and still be my vice captain because he had 7 points with a clean sheet. And so that was tripled to because my captain didn't play. So that was tripled to 14. So Leno was actually responsible for getting me almost half of my points last week. Now I'm going to a strategy where I'm not going to be. I'm not going to be. I'm trying not to take as many 4-point deductions as I did previously. So I'm going for a 3-4-3 formation. Now the key thing here that I didn't realize until basically this morning was that Christian Pulisic and America Laporte are both out of this game. You know, so and for me, Pulisic, who I was really banking on coming back, I did select him. That's a huge blow for me. But I don't want to change anything. So for me, because of that, Foden and Rodriguez come in. Rodriguez is still going to be under review, in my opinion. He played well against Everton, but where he seems to be playing in the Everton position is quite deep. He seems to be playing much more of a deeper role at Everton, and I think as a result of that, he might not get as many goals, and so I think he might be someone that's under review. Getting some comments in. Yo, Team Takage, CO Team Hi, Boss Man, sup. Shout out to everyone in the comments. Thank you for tuning in for our fantasy football deadline stream. So as a result, just quickly going into before we go into who I'd pick, who Josh would pick, giving you guys some heads up. My defense is Trent, Gabriel, and Gomez. Now, it would have been Laporte starting, but Laporte is injured or he's not match fit. Gabriel had a very good week last week. I think he was one of the first people for me to come in my opinion, because looking at West Ham in particular, I think I expect Arsenal to keep another clean sheet against this West Ham side that look absolutely devoid of ideas, even though this is a derby. To then add to the fact the Liverpool defenders are suspect. I'm not going to lie. And I didn't want to change much because I don't want to do point deductions right now. But the Liverpool defenders are under review, to be honest, because against Leeds, they conceded 3 goals. And even before the season started, they were conceding multiple goals. So Trent is here obviously because he provides assists and he have a really good game. But I would be I'm not confident, unfortunately, that Trent and Gomez will keep clean sheets against a Chelsea team that have got renewed firepower. However, like I said, I didn't really want to take that point deficit this early in the season. The midfield four speaks for itself. I say no Pulisic. Phil Foden I assume, will most likely start for City with no David Silva. It should be a for Phil Foden to come in. Like I said, James Rodriguez is still there. I'm hoping that against West Bromwich Albion, that he won't be as defensive in terms of the way that he's played, and he'll be allowed to go forward. And so I expect maybe an assist, possibly for him, hopefully a goal. Now here's where hopefully my game week is going to be stayed, and that's the Manchester United players coming in: Mason Greenwood, Bruno Fernandes, Martial. I'm no doubt that Fernandes is going to start. I expect that Bruno Fernandes will start for Manchester United, given what he's done. And that's why he's captain. Bruno Fernandes had so many goal contributions last season. It was ridiculous. Whether that's from the penalty spot or for assist. If you want a safe bet of a captaincy, and we're going to be talking about captaincy picks in a bit, my safe bet for me is Bruno Fernandes personally. So because he will give you something. And against the Palace side, who have given Manchester United problems, they do give Manchester United problems from time to time. But it's at home, it's our first game of the season. I expect that Manchester United will get the job done against Crystal Palace. It might not be a blitzing win, but we should be able to deal with this Crystal Palace team, and Bruno Fernandes will be part of that goal contribution. Now the front three are interesting. The front three: Mitrovic, Martial, Wilson. Martial may or may not be hit or miss, but hopefully again he'll contribute to goals. Now these two, Wilson again was another player last week that actually helped me. He scored a goal against West Ham, and I think against Brighton at home with the joys at home, I think even more so. I think he'll be able to contribute as well. So I think Callum Wilson is a very good shout for Newcastle, and a very cheap shout. And then Mitrovic. Now Mitrovic, I could put Walker Peters in. Mitrovic is a risk. He didn't start against Arsenal, but I expect that he'll be starting against Leeds. Leeds played very well against Liverpool, but they did concede 4 goals. And Mitrovic, if they're going to concede a goal, it's going to be due to Mitrovic. When he came on against Arsenal, he was a bully, he was a threat, and so I expect Mitrovic to hopefully contribute to some goals this game week. So that's my team going in. Because I'm not expecting a high-scoring game week. I am going to be changing things probably next game week, but I don't want to take the point deficit. Josh, what do you think about this team? And what about your team, obviously? Oh, sorry. Go on.
Well, I think obviously Chelsea, going to be Chelsea last season when they played Liverpool, conceded a lot of goals both times. I think they conceded 6 against Liverpool. So I don't know. Liverpool defenders this season, in my opinion, is a bit shaky. Trent is obviously going to be a good one because he takes a lot of set pieces, gets a lot of assists, and Van Dijk, but I'm not sure about anyone else. Gabriel, I've also got on my team. He looks solid, and they're playing West Ham, who didn't have the greatest start. The Man United players will be interesting to see if they're fit and things like that. First game. Palace, who actually looked really good against, I forgot who it was now, Southampton. So that'll actually be an interesting game. I think Greenwood is just. I think I've just put him in my team because he was on the bench last game, obviously. So I got Greenwood in there. But yeah, I think that looks okay. Obviously the Man United City players coming back. In my team, I think another sort of good pick is Salah. Salah looks kind of hungry this season. I know it was only Leeds, people might say, but he did get a hat-trick. So Salah will be a good shout to put in there. I would say I wouldn't go with Mane this season. Mane seems to be almost like feeding Salah. Everything's kind of directed towards Salah because Firmino's not doing anything. So yeah, we'll see. Some interesting picks coming in. But yeah, I would Salah's another good shout for this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So just getting into where's my mouse gone? Oh, there it is. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I've been having a mare of live streams recently. It's just been so bad. So let's quickly look at the sort of best value for money. So who would you say is the like going into Scream? Obviously, irrespective of who's in our team or not, would be the best value for money sort of going in into this week. Bearing in mind, obviously, the fixtures that I've got, and I obviously see the fixtures here. These are the fixtures coming up here. Who would you say is a good shout?
Well, you have Leeds, Fulham, and if I didn't already use my free transfer, I would have probably gotten a Leeds player here, honestly, because there's Fulham conceded 3 on the first game. Leeds conceded 4, but Leeds also scored 3, and Fulham scored nothing. So you'd think if Leeds can put 3 past Liverpool at home, they should be able to put a few past Fulham. And there was a range of scorers too. So whether it's a defender or a midfield, someone like Harrison at the minute is only like 5 mil from what I remember. Harrison is 5.5 mil. That would, even if it was just a bench player, but sometimes you need a gamble in fantasy football. And I would have put someone, if I had a free transfer, I would have put him in instead of Pereira, because I've got Pereira, but they're playing Everton. West Brom, they're playing Everton, so I would have rather, if I had a free transfer, I would have put Harrison there instead of Pereira, because I don't think necessarily West Brom will be able to break down Everton, especially since they got a clean sheet versus Spurs. So value for money, someone like Harrison, who did score against Liverpool, and I think he assisted as well, if I remember correctly. And he's a midfielder, so you get the extra points for goals and things there. So Harrison for me, or someone a little bit more expensive, I would go. Yeah, no, I'll stick with Harrison.
Listen, I'll just quickly look at the. So I think that I think that Harrison is a good shout. I think that again, looking at the fixtures I can see here now, I think is Martinez is signed for Villa, right? Already now.
Yeah.
So you could argue that Martinez might also actually be a good shout as well. Like he I think he's about 4.5 to 5 as a keeper. Villa at home, they're playing Sheffield United, who had a bit of a dud, and he's a good keeper. So if you want a decent keeper option that isn't very very expensive, I think Martinez is probably is certainly there, and he's got a good chance of getting a clean sheet in that respect. I still think that if you're looking at striker options as a cheap option, I definitely think that that Callum Wilson is a good shout. Callum Wilson, Mitrovic, I think it's a good risk against Leeds, for example. He probably will score. But if we're talking about a guy who I think would be more reliable to score, especially being fed by likes of Shelby and now Fraser, etc., I think Callum Wilson is there. Newcastle are going to be playing at home. So I would, he's going to get you at least maybe a goal, possibly an assist, likely to Bournemouth. So for me, Callum Wilson would be a sort of good shout as well. In the midfield, that's a good midfield. If you want midfield, midfield. What are your thoughts, Josh, in the midfield?
In terms of value for money?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying there actually Zaha is 7 point something. Is that
Ooh,
7.7? Just seven?
So a few questions in here. Okay. Notorious one. Hey bro, my wild card is unavailable. Any idea why? I'm an FPL first time. I've set the replacements, but it's locked off. Um, did you play your wild card in your first game week? Um, Otherwise it shouldn't really be available. So the only reason why I can think that is the case is because you either played it or accidentally played it. So there should be an option on the top right of the screen that should say wildcard played. Check. So what I'll do is I'll show it to you. So you see this region in the transfer section, it should say something like this: play wildcard. If it doesn't say that, you presumably you must have played your wildcard. Not either intentionally or not intentionally. Unfortunately, I know that's happened to some fantasy football players in the past, just because of glitches, but that is the case here. Neville Thomas says Walker Peters or Mitchell. Josh.
I'm not sure on that one because Southampton are playing Spurs, no?
Yeah.
And Spurs are funny, man, and I'm sure he'll want to prove himself. Get an assist at Spurs. So I would keep Walker Peters in, honestly. Spurs didn't manage to score against Everton, so I'll keep Walker Peters.
Alan says, Nico says Sterling or Bruno. I'm obviously biased as a Manchester United fan, but I would say Bruno Fernandes. Simply because for two reasons. Obviously Bruno Fernandes' form going into this, he will at least contribute a goal or assist, usually in a game. In fact, I can probably count on one hand the amount of times he hasn't contributed in that respect. But also, City are playing away to Wolves, and that's not going to be difficult. And last season, City lost to Wolves twice, and Sterling was quite ineffective in those games. I think it's going to be a tough game, and Wolves look pretty good. It looked pretty good against an organised Sheffield United side. So, if I was going to put a player in, I'd put Bruno Fernandes in over Sterling. I don't know what you think.
I'd put Bruno in over Sterling too. Bruno's, he might get a penalty at some point. And he has a lot of he had more contributions than Sterling last season. So
No, yeah. No, fair enough. Okay. So yeah, by the way, guys, keep your questions coming in. Keep your questions coming in. We'll obviously be doing a lot of tips leading up. We're streaming all the way up to the deadline. So keep your last minutes. Who should come in? Who should not come in teams? I'm probably going to stick with my team, even though I think that this is not going to be not going to be a successfully high game week. So, but we'll see what happens. So let's actually get into the meat and potatoes. We've got about 10 minutes in. Your captain pick for this game week. Now, I've obviously gone with Bruno Fernandes as my captain for this game week for obvious reasons, because of his goal contribution, etc. Josh, who is your captain?
I got Salah. I kept with my boy Mo.
Okay.
I just feel like if they're on form, I don't want to change anything. I feel like last season I chopped and changed with my captains. Like I'll put this person 1 week, this person 1 week, and I feel like as long as they're in form, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So maybe this season advice would just be keep the same captain, unless it's like Bruno Fernandes playing against Fulham or something, or Aubameyang playing against Fulham. Then obviously you would put your captain on those instead of who you have been. But but I would keep it for the most part. Yeah. So I went with Salah.
Fine. Okay. Fair enough. As for sort of alternative picks, obviously people are sort of watching, or maybe high risk picks. It's a good show. Who would be a high risk pick? I think as a captain, but could potentially pay off. That's a tough question. That's a tough. Looking at these fixtures, I mean, to be honest, Aubameyang is also not a bad shout. If you have him, he's expensive and he's a midfielder, but Aubameyang, I think, could easily score a brace against this West Ham side. So I think that Aubameyang is also probably another good shout for captain in this game week. Personally, for me, I mean, I could be wrong, but personally, I wouldn't captain anyone from Manchester City away to Wolves. I just don't think that's wise given City's recent form against them. You could potentially consider captaining if you want to risk captaining, like I said, a Mitrovic or a Leeds player, given the shaky defense in those two teams. Those would probably be my shouts, to be honest, because a lot of these are bits. I wouldn't captain Trent because I just don't think the Liverpool are gonna keep out Chelsea, even though they're especially that they're away. And what are your thoughts, Josh? Any wild card captain picks?
I don't know, honestly. I think Vardy is always a good shout because he takes pens and he isn't slowing down. I wouldn't necessarily call it a wild card, but he's. Yeah. I mean, he's been so consistent.
They are home to Burnley, though. They are Burnley, and Burnley always seem to have a bit of a struggle. Leicester, sorry, always seems to have a bit of a struggle with Leicester, in my opinion. So just because of the way they play, the low block, the physicality, etc., I don't think that that's going to be a difficult, easy game for Leicester. Sorry, by any means. But I do take your point. What else? So there's 8 minutes to go before the deadline, guys. If you guys are watching or be watching soon, please get your questions in. Let me know who you want on, etc., etc. It'd be really, really useful. Let's just think. Let's just think. Let's just end with general Premier League fantasy football tips. Obviously, if we're not getting many questions coming in, Josh, I guess how would you set up even? How would you even set up this game week?
In terms of formation?
Yeah.
Well, I went with a 4-5-1. Purely because I felt like last season I kind of didn't really realize how much points midfielders got. Obviously, midfielders are primarily there to assist and things like that, create chances. But people like Bruno, people like Salah, they take penalties, they score goals. So like I feel like I focused more on the midfield this season, and then just went with like a reliable striker. So I have Danny Ings there. So I went with a 4-5-1. But I might end up changing that to 3-5-2 if I manage to get another decent striker in there. But at the minute I have 4-5-1, which I think is pretty solid, especially when you got players like Salah and Greenwood's obviously a midfielder this season.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the midfielders would be more important than the strikers this season, because I think even Aubameyang's a midfielder, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah. So I would go heavy midfield.
I feel that's just because they, for some reason, every single season they seem to change a lot of midfield players and make them midfield players. So like I said, Greenwood is now a midfield player, even though he's never played in midfield. I think there was one time when Martial was a midfield player, but he's now obviously a forward. Rashford, is Rashford a midfield player? He might be. I'm not been sure. And obviously, Aubameyang is a midfield player as well, even though he's also never played in midfield. Son is a midfield player. It's ridiculous how these are midfield players, to be honest, in traditional sense. So, but it is what it is. That's how fantasy football just seems to be doing their thing. J Spurs says Red Devil put Gareth Bale, but Gareth Bale isn't going to start, is he? Though, as far as I mean, well, he's training though, isn't he? But like,
isn't he injured?
is he? From what I would gather, J Spurs, and thank you for tuning in. By the way, we appreciate it. Gareth Bale. I think might be injured. I think one, he's ridiculously. I think he's quite expensive, but two, he's injured. Let me just check. We'll double check that.
I'm pretty sure he's injured for 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think that there was 14 says Tottenham diagnosed Gareth Bale injury during medical ahead of 20 million loan transfer. Wow.
Imagine it's a 20 million loan transfer.
Yeah.
Spurs just take L's after L's.
I mean, yeah, it's just. I mean, I don't know if it, but from what I gather, Jay, he's what I gather, and I put your comment on here. What I gather, he's injured. 20 million and his wages, and he's now injured. I mean, what do you say to that, really? What do you say to that, Rengeland? So maybe in the future, but I think that's disconcerting. In it. How many more minutes? You've got about 4 minutes before the deadline. Get your questions in. They'll trust me. He will score 20 Gs. Well, I'm sure he will. Jay, who is this guy? It's Josh who's on the podcast, and he's an Arsenal fan. Jay Spurs. Yes, I know you were a Spurs fan as well. This hater. So Joshy from the Red Devil Live podcast, who comes on the show quite a bit, and he is an Arsenal fan, so that's why the hate. I'm not saying that.
I'm not hating. I'm just being honest. 20 million for a loan, and you might or might not get top four. I don't know. I don't. That's expensive to me, but Levy's a businessman, so he knows what he's doing. Obviously,
we'll definitely see what happens. But unfortunately, like I said, he's not. I don't know how long he's going to be out for,
and he's injury prone, as you can see.
If he makes an impact, I think he will. So, but my goodness, the fact that they signed for 20 million, but it's like they only found out he was injured when he did the medical, which I think is even worse. So yeah, I think that's a bit that's not really helpful at all. More questions coming in here. Aiden Gannon, captain pick between Vardy, Cavalier, and Aubameyang. I want Vardy, but I don't know. Mate, I would go with Aubameyang, to be honest, mate. West Ham, Arsenal at home at the Emirates. West Ham's form has been atrocious. I expect an Aubameyang brace at least. Calvert-Lewin is not a bad shout of Everton being at home, but I would probably go over. If you can afford him, I'd go for Aubameyang. As a second, I would probably go for Calvert-Lewin, because Burnley, I think Vardy will struggle against Burnley. He's a bit off the pace a bit, and Burnley less often struggle against Burnley. So Aubameyang and Calvert-Lewin. Would you agree, Josh?
Yeah, I think Aubameyang. But I never put Arsenal players normally in my team in terms of attackers.
AJ is a quick thing we'll address it, because obviously it's the minute deadline. AJ says, hey, mate, would you go Ings to Martial, Aubameyang to KDB, Bruno for next week? I have one free transfer. Oh, this is for next week. Okay. So for next week, Ings to Martial, or Aubameyang to KDB, Bruno. Take that, Josh. What do you think? This is for next week, though. So I'll look at these are game week 3 fixtures, if you can see that. Martial. So to be honest, for me, I would keep Martial, because United are playing away against Brighton, and United tend to do quite well against Brighton in recent seasons. Arsenal are away to Liverpool, so I think Aubameyang will consistently be okay, but is Aubameyang going to score tons of goals against Liverpool? I'm not sure. And then as far as Ings, Southampton are playing Burnley again, who are stout. So if I were you, I would keep Martial out of those 3. So we'd go to Ings to Martial, Aubameyang. So I'd go from Ings to Martial if you can. and then so that's your striking option. Sorry, and then Aubameyang to KDB/Bruno. I would again go with, if you can, Aubameyang to Bruno, just based on that fixture alone. But long term, I would probably keep Ings and Aubameyang in your squad. But for just game week 3, if you can switch it. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I think the same. Yeah, but that is 11 the deadline? Is it?
11 is done. Yeah. So deadline's gone. Deadline's gone. Now, I just answered that just because that was for the week after. But yeah, the game with deadline is done. Hope everyone's got their teams in. I wish everyone a successful games week. Fingers crossed it will work. But we'll see what happens. Thanks again for those who came in, asked questions, etc., and got involved. Last thoughts, Josh?
Good luck, everybody. Good luck, and don't be chopping and changing when your favorite player doesn't do well. Don't be taking lots of -4s, because that's what I did last season right at the start, because I was frustrated, and it bit me in the butt. So just trust in some of the players you got. Don't take loads of hits, and we will have a good game week. I got 69 in my first game week, so I can afford to lose a few points, but I'm chilling right now. Chilling.
Take care, everybody. Shout out to AJ, J Spurs, and everyone else that got involved in the comments. Really appreciate